Hello again, everyone. Steve Baker, the voice of the Red Hawks, here with you, and happy to be joined by former Red Hawk, longtime LA King, and now Vegas Golden Knight Alec Martinez joins us via the internet. And Alec, first of all, I know you're back out in Los Angeles right now. We talked a little bit before we went on the air here, and staying safe and pretty much doing what everybody else is doing, staying home now, I take it.
Yeah, just I'm getting my workouts in the morning. I was able to kind of between some of the stuff that I had at the house and then, asked for some kind of spare, whatever anyone had to spare workout wise and talked to some of my old buddies and friends that had some stuff around here and kind of put together a little mishmash for a gym, but, able to get things done. And then just trying to do my part, stay indoors, stay inside, limiting the trips to the grocery store. I mean, obviously there's certain things that you have to go do. But yeah, just kind of hunkering down, finding things to do around the house, done some painting, some staining, a lot of puzzles, card games.
Yeah.
Netflix obviously comes in handy. I think everyone's probably watched all of Netflix at this point.
I think
just kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I want to talk to you about your freshman year at Miami University. The 2005-2006 season was a special year for Miami. It started a great stretch for the university, and I want you to kind of go back to your first year at Miami and tell me how it was for you as an 18-year-old transitioning into college life and college hockey.
Obviously, it was a new experience. I was an 18-year-old kid. I think one thing that benefited me as well as a lot of the other hockey guys is, a lot of us had to move away from home prior and junior. So, leaving my friends and having that new experience, it kind of helped that I'd done it already. But obviously, you go to college and, the classes itself, it's a lot different than high school. You have the added responsibility. And, I think, I don't think I ever told any of the coaching staff this, but I think it was at my geology class. I completely missed on the syllabus that we had a test, and I showed up one day and we had to pick up a Scantron, and I had absolutely no idea. I'm thinking like, oh, well, the teacher review, this is awfully early. This is only a couple weeks into class. And it turns out it was actually a quiz. And so that was kind of like a little wake up call for me too, that maybe I needed to, take my studies and maybe use that planner that the athletic department gave me.
Yeah.
But obviously from a hockey standpoint, I went into school knowing a few guys. Obviously I grew up with Jeff Zakoff. We were roommates. I played junior with Bill Lupe and Ray Eichenlob. Knew Kevin Roeder a little bit just from playing against him in junior. And, it's the hockey world's fairly small. So you've either played against those guys or just know them, but or both. But it was obviously a really good experience hockey wise. I think all of us freshmen, we stepped into a really talented hockey team. And like you mentioned, that was kind of, I would say that was Miami's, maybe it's coming out party, obviously, having a really good start. And I don't necessarily remember when we reached number one in the rankings, but I vividly remember that Michigan series at home at the old Goggin as a kind of a statement weekend. Is we're here, we're the real deal. So obviously it was a great freshman year. I was fortunate enough to play with a lot of good players and more importantly good guys. And we had a lot of fun that year. Obviously coming up short at the end was a disappointment, but overall an awesome freshman year.
Yeah, as a freshman, you mentioned it. You were the last class to play in that old facility, the old Goggin Arena. And tell me what memories you have of that building.
I think that certain series, like I mentioned, kind of stick out. Obviously, that Michigan one. I think as a kid growing up in Michigan and watching them, I really wanted to beat them that weekend, and we were fortunate enough to do so. But obviously, winning the regular season championship was obviously pretty cool. I think really at the end of the day is that a lot of people talk about the new building, and I mean, it's obviously state of the art. It's the new Goggin is, an unbelievable place to play. But I was happy that I got the experience to play in the old Goggin too. I mean, it was a really close knit, close knit environment. Our locker room wasn't much to write home about, but that was okay. And we would go out there, and you have the student section wrapped all the way around the glass, and obviously the stands were packed, and low ceiling creates for a pretty loud environment. So to be honest, like I said, I'm pretty thankful that I was able to experience both. And I'd say that my number one memory is just going out there and having the students and the fans right on top of you. I think that was a pretty unique experience, especially to have students and fans 5-6 people deep along the glass. That's pretty cool. And I'd certainly never played in front of anything like that up until that point.
Yeah, I think it was a really unique building in all of college hockey at the time. You mentioned the team being moved to number one for the first time, also won a CCHA title that year. You mentioned some of the guys that you played with. What made that, I mean, you guys coming in as freshmen, immediate bond with the upper class and really made that a special group?
Well, I think, I've said this countless times that I think that the coaching staff did a really good job of not only bringing in good hockey players, but good people. And I think, we were a pretty tight knit group from the get go. We had a lot of great leadership in the senior class, and you got Stevie Dennis, you got Andy Green, Chris Michael. I mean, all those guys. Matt Davis took us under their wing, and I remember we had a pretty big. I think there was 9 of us as a freshman class, and so we, the cool part about that was that we were able to step in and be a big part of the team, and I think that for whatever reason we had good chemistry, and obviously the older guys were really welcoming to us younger guys, and helped us along both on and off the ice, and taught us how to be, good college hockey players and how to take care of ourselves. And, and then obviously the coaching staff too, they did a good job of, not only just teaching us about the game of hockey, but just staying on us off the ice, making sure that we were going to study tables and things like that. But I think that, when you bring in good people and you have a lot of guys that genuinely like each other, then the chemistry just manifests itself.
Absolutely. Now, I want to fast forward you to the postseason of that season. You're hosting Western Michigan in the CCHA playoffs. You won the first game pretty handily. Then in trying to get to the Joe in game 2, you took Western's best shot in that game. Tell us what you remember about that game that ultimately ended with you scoring a historic overtime goal for the game winner.
Well, I mean, I remember kind of what we touched on earlier, how crazy the fans were, especially when we got into overtime there. I think that, Western, it was a really good hockey game. It was a tight game, and, it was a pretty loud environment, a fun one to play in. And, oftentimes I think that clinching game to move on is the hardest one to get. It's the, in terms of just my experience in pro too, that fourth win in a series is obviously very difficult, and there's just something about it that it's just harder than the other games to win. So they put up a really good fight, and I do remember the goal. It was just kind of a wrister towards the net, and I'm pretty sure it went 5-hole. But I have a picture downstairs in my office of me jumping up. I think Nick Petraglia, he had a hand in getting me that picture, but I must have been 2 or 3 feet off the ice. But I'm obviously just happy that we were able to win and move on and get an opportunity to, move forward and play at the Joe.
That goal kind of set up what was to be, I guess, in your future, as the goal was the first of 4 playoff overtime goals in your career. 2 years later, the overtime winner versus Notre Dame that sent Miami to the CCHA championship game. In 2014, second Stanley Cup run with the LA Kings. You scored both the Game 7 overtime winning goal in the conference final to beat the Blackhawks. And then in Game 5, you get to live out the memory that every kid really wants to have, and that's by scoring a double overtime goal to win the Stanley Cup. How do you explain those late heroics and that late magic?
Well, I guess I would explain it with 2 phrases: either every dog has its day, or even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Now, come on. Now, Reggie Jackson is Mr. October in baseball now. I mean, come on, man. I know better than that, man. I know you're a humble guy, but this is really something special.
Well, I mean, I think that as an athlete, or a competitor, you want to be able to perform under pressure, and you want to play in big games, and you want to come up big in tough situations. But I would say that I have just been very fortunate to have played on some really good teams and with some really good players that put myself and the entire team, given us the opportunity to be in a situation like that. I mean, how many guys that are much better at hockey than I am never got an opportunity just because they never played on those teams. So I think just being a part of good groups and talented hockey teams obviously increases my chances of being in those situations. And for whatever reason, it's happened. But I think that it's one of those things that I think about from time to time, but not that much. I think I've said this a lot before, that I think that maybe I don't truly appreciate those moments just quite yet because I'm still playing. I think that might be something that I reflect on once I'm done playing, when I look back at my career. I mean, I think right now, a lot of people talk about complacency and all that. Once you have those moments, once you win either a Stanley Cup or a national championship, or a CCHA title, that you get kind of complacent. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I think that once you go through all that and you have that experience, you realize just simply how much fun it is, and you want to do it again. But I'm obviously still playing and still trying to get back to that pinnacle. So maybe it's something I don't necessarily appreciate yet. But like you mentioned, I mean, for me to be able to score that goal in real life, I mean, I've scored that goal a million times in my driveway growing up. Much like a lot of kids, and to have that opportunity and to be able to do that is obviously something pretty special. But at the end of the day, I'm just glad we won. I don't care who in our locker room would have scored that goal. I was just happy to win and be a part of an experience like that. And I think that I go from the championships I won throughout my entire life, whether it be in youth hockey or junior or college or in the NHL. I think the coolest part is being able to share that experience with people that you care about. And my parents were always at games when I was playing at Miami, and obviously being from Michigan, they were always at the Joe, and they were fortunate enough to be there when I won both cups. And I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's the coolest thing about it all, is being able to share that with them, and then with your teammates, some of the older guys. I mean, when I won, I was 24 and 26 years old, and I was playing with guys that were in their mid 30s, and that was their first opportunity, and then they break down crying, because that was almost their first opportunity to even get that close, and then to finally do it, and to see those guys lift the cup and have that experience. I mean, that's by far the coolest part about it. Much more so than scoring any of those particular goals.
Yeah. Lastly, Alec, one thing we talk about achieving goals and that sort of thing. You played 3 seasons at Miami, then turned professional. But I know one thing that was always important to you was finishing your degree, which you were able to do after several years of hard work. Can you talk about why it was important for you to come back and get that degree from Miami?
Well, before I touch into my story, I would like to say that a little birdie told me that you yourself have just done the same thing. So I would like to extend, as a fellow graduate, extend my congratulations as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes it takes longer than 4 years, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I say. A lot of people go to school for 13 years and they're called doctors, but no, in all seriousness though, congratulations. That is awesome. And
thank you.
It's a lot of hard work, as you know. I mean, especially once you leave school, but, as for me, I mean, I went into my junior season, on a personal level, wanting to have a good enough year. At that point I was drafted. I just wanted to have a good enough year where I would have a tough decision to make, at the end of the season. And obviously I had a really tough one. I mean, I deliberated over it for, I think, a month at least. But, the one thing is I've been fortunate enough to have, a great set of parents that have supported me. And, they were obviously a big, I guess, sounding board in terms of my decision. And, they said that they would support me no matter which way, whether I came back to school or signed. But the one thing I had to promise is that I was going to finish my degree. And, I was a stupid 20-year-old kid, that seemed, it's like, oh yeah, I got a year left. It's going to be a piece of cake. Well, obviously it wasn't, but, so, I guess I just kind of had to, I wanted to finish myself, but I had to uphold a promise to my parents. And, I kind of thought towards the future. I want my future children to go to college and do that as well. And I'd be kind of a hypocrite if I didn't finish it. But, that said, I had a ton of help. Those who are watching this know who they are. I mean, there's plenty of people in the business school and the accounting department that helped me finish my degree. Obviously, Jim Stearns was a big help. Nick Petraglia was a big help. But I'm glad I obviously got it done. I think it's something that no one can take away from you. And, I'm just glad that I was able to finally give that to my parents. I think they got kind of, they would ask me all the time, like, how's that degree going? How's that degree going? And I would kind of get a little peeved with them. And, I eventually just told them I wasn't talking to them about it anymore. And, I remember I had just gotten surgery, shoulder surgery at the end of the season, and I was sitting around. I didn't really have much to do. Kind of much like, a lot of us find ourselves in this situation right now. But don't think that I'm going back for my master's or anything. No, but I was just sitting around and I thought, this is a good opportunity to chip away and, I talked to a lot of the academic advisors, and I talked to Trags a little bit, and Jim Stearns in the accounting department, and kind of just put a bit of a plan in place for me to finish. And I kept it a secret from my family and my parents for about 2.5 years, which was pretty impressive. And I actually finished the last. I think I finished the last week of classes the week my sister was getting married. So, and she got married out here in LA, and a lot of my family was here. So I was having to dip out to Starbucks for an hour or two, or lock myself in my room to get my schoolwork done and take my exams and stuff. And then I guess one name I can't ignore either is Dr. Reffitt. Helped me a lot with my last class, my financial audit course. But anyways, I was able to give it to my parents for a Christmas gift, and I was able to graduate. I didn't quite have the diploma yet, so I printed one out on like a Google template and wrote my name in it and threw it in a shoebox and wrapped it. But it was obviously a pretty cool moment, giving that to my parents. And my parents were teary-eyed and crying, and just they were probably relieved, actually, because they probably thought I was never going to get it done. But obviously, really happy. I mean, that was one thing that was important to me too, is I wanted to graduate. I wanted to be a Miami grad, and there was no sense in putting in those 3 years of hard work and all that and not seeing it through. So obviously I'm really happy, and to be a Miami grad, and I keep that diploma hung on my wall right next to my Stanley Cup jerseys in my office. So
very good. Very good.
It's obviously a pretty cool accomplishment, but I wouldn't have been able to do it with a lot of people at the university helping me out.
I do know that feeling, and congratulations again, Alec. I appreciate you taking some time today. It's a tough time for everybody, and we appreciate you spending some time with us today, and hope that you stay safe out there in LA. I'm looking forward to seeing you play this fall.
Yeah, thank you. You guys as well, and if I could just give a shout out. I mean, I hope obviously everyone in Oxford is staying safe, both everyone that works at the university, but then the town and all the small businesses. And it would take far too long for me to give a shout out to each individual one that I like to frequent or go to eat at and things like that. But obviously I hope that everyone's staying safe, staying healthy, and hopefully we can weather this thing soon.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Steve. Thank you.